yours on the show. I'm never sure. I feel like I have a limited amount of time to pick out all the gems.
Oh, dude,
Should I get all the diamonds or should I get all the gold?
Whatever you want, man.
Man, you were well received on the last show.
That's nice to hear. I'm glad to hear that.
Hey, are you on social media?
Intermittently, you know. I guess I kind of have a you're my social media, you know, got like follow.
Our connection's really bad. Maybe it's because you're moving around.
Probably. I don't have time for social media, you know. And then when I go on there, it's a cesspool, you know.
It is a cesspool. I was just kicked off of Instagram.
Oh, you got kicked off?
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? I didn't care at first, but in the last like couple of days, I've been trying to get people on my podcast, and my account had a blue check mark, and you'd be surprised at how valuable that is at getting people to come on the show, because I'll DM people and my DM will land in their inbox, and if it has a blue check mark, they'll respond to it. But if it doesn't, they're just like, oh, it must be some just scam.
Oh man. What was your crime against humanity?
I don't know. So I don't even know, Dale. But I asked one of my friends who comes on the show regularly, Andrew Hiller. I'm like, he goes, what happened? And I said, I don't know what happened. And he goes, well, I know what happened. And I said, what? And he goes, everything you post. So
yeah.
Maybe just everything. But someone called me last night who had their account taken away, who got it back. And they said, hey, they got one of their accounts back. And the sign that you can get it back is you'll see remnants of your account still on the app. And I do see some remnants of it. So.
Wow. It's interesting. You know, there's lawsuits and other social media, you know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. They've got some lawsuits against them that basically they've been colluding with the government. And I've been following them. At the
Dale, our connection is so bad. You're saying good shit and I can't hear it.
Really?
That's where you sat. That's where you were sitting last time, right?
Yeah. Same spot. I can move. I can go in the kitchen.
Is there better Wi-Fi there? Are you closer to the router there?
No, I'm actually probably in a better spot right here. This is my desktop. This is where I work from.
I wonder, and if you look in the upper left-hand corner, does it say your signal is weak, or does it show like some bars missing? Uh-oh. Yeah.
No, I got
Libby said it. Uh-oh. Libby, what's in your mouth? Is that a pacifier? Libby Budak.
Big Dave Matthews.
Ah, damn, Dale. Yeah, Dale, could you try the kitchen? This is bad. Oh,
yeah.
Dale, or log off and log back on. You want to try that once?
Yeah. How do I do that? Oh, just leave studio and come.
Yeah, try that.
Yeah, I'll log off and log back.
Okay. Good morning, guys. Yeah, Shmanny, Bruce. Good morning, Mr. Jeffrey. Patrick, Chase, good morning. Libby, good morning. Elisa. I don't think I've ever written this name. That's why every time I see it, I don't know how to say it. Jody Lynn, Vindicate. Oh, get your Vindicate Plan B shirts. Get your TDC CEO shirts before they run out. Damn, I love these shirts. I wonder if all the people I hang around throughout the day at all the kids' events I go to have noticed my entire wardrobe has changed. Ooh, you guys are piling in. Alan, good morning. Buenos dias. Big and Flexi. Oh, Big and Flexi, we got to get you scheduled. I think it's going to be after. I think it'll be after the CrossFit Games. Man, the schedule is getting crazy. I just heard. I'm trying to do 2 or 3 or 4 podcasts a day as we get closer to the games, just having the athletes just pile in. But I also just heard that I spoke to Greg last night, and he's coming to town. Greg Glassman's coming to town for 4 days to do some talking here in Santa Cruz, and I don't want to miss that. So I'm not sure.
Let's see if that works better.
Oh, you sound good now.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, do I hear a baby? What?
That's a cat.
Oh, nice. Let him out.
This up here. There we go. That's better.
Where are you again, Dale? You're in Kansas?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay, so you were following the social media cases, people getting yanked off of social media. You said you were following some of those cases closely. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so there's a couple.
Oh, son of a bitch, Dale. Hey, Dale, can maybe you need to stand
No,
on
did
the
it?
router? Yeah.
How that? Try that. I see you.
It's bad.
Oh, that bums me out, man.
Yeah. Maybe where
Hold
is
on.
it? Okay. No problem. Yeah, that's where Jacob Hepner went. He went and parked his car in the strip club. That is true. Is that what was the name of that club? Helpers. That's where we did the podcast from. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You're frozen solid
Hopefully
now.
Go to Helper Strip Club. Let's see if this works. All right. Better. That was router.
Nope.
Oh, you're gonna have Cara Webb / Cara Saunders on? I just saw somebody pump that up.
Yeah, we are. Dale, you're still so frozen, dude. Am I frozen when I talk to you?
Yeah.
Is there another place you can try?
I could try one other thing. I could try a different network. I could use my cell to stream. Man, what a pain in the ass.
I'm sorry.
Not your fault, man. It's bad interwebs. I don't know. Let me see if there's a better place, or maybe if I'm upstairs.
I like the cat. What is the cat stuck in a room somewhere?
No, the cat's just a pain in the ass. We got very talkative cats.
Dr. D, what's up, brother? Good morning. Dr. D. That should be my nickname. I like it when you walk around the house, everything's great.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Try it now. See how it is now. I'm as close to the router as I can be without plug. I'm tempted to plug into it, but I don't have a plug with me. But it's not good lighting, is it?
It's okay. We just need to hear you. We just need to hear that giant brain as air gets bent around through your windpipe and then come out through your microphone.
There we go. How's that?
Hey, I was looking at the stats today of I want to go back to the social media thing, but it's fucked up, Dale. Now you're stuck. I can't even hear you at all now. Bad lighting is better than poor audio.
I didn't hear any of that. This is terrible. Let me log off and see if I can get a better.
Alan says maybe you should take out your anal plug. Maybe your anal plug is causing interference in the.
It could be. That could be.
Oh, there you go. You're good.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think you're good.
I know. Now it's good. I just saw that too.
Can it just balance there?
Hold on.
Is your computer in a good spot? It's not. He's in the middle of the country somewhere. He's where most of you guys live. What's that called? Flyover land? Oh, nope. You froze again. Damn it. I was looking at the numbers for police. Number of police in the United States, and then alcohol-related gun violence. 1/3 of all gun violence is alcohol-related. Uh-oh. Now, Dale, you might even have to log off. You're completely frozen. Dale, go let the cat out of the bag. Heidi. Power cycle it all. I appreciate that. Yeah, Dr. D, but in lowercase. Oh, Mr. McGavin. Newcastle. That used to be my favorite beer in college. Not the one I could afford, but the one I preferred. Just walk around the whole time. It's a thought. He froze. Got my Hiller no rep tank top and no plan BT in the mail. Awesome, Karina. Karina Rain. Is that your real name? It's a good name. Shooter McGavin, I can compete against you. Why, is this dude good? Jeez Louise. Is Mr. McGavin good CrossFitter? Yeah, I loved that brown ale. And anytime I would try any other brown ales, they didn't do the same for me. Now I don't even like beer at all. It's weird. Mr. Rhodes, say hi to Dale for me. Do you know Dale, Mr. Rhodes? Do you know him? Good morning. Good morning. There's the other Elise. There she is. I don't know if you guys saw Trina started a Reels account. I wish I could remember the name of it. Maybe it's Go Rogue Sevan or Sevan Gone Rogue or something. It's just Reels from the show. It's pretty cool. Oh, we're back. Hey, and the video here is amazing. All the other spots, the video is ass. It's just the audio we're having
you're
problem with.
real. I don't know, man.
Dale, do you know Cobra Rhodes?
Yeah.
Andrew Rhodes. How do you know him? From how do you know him?
Yeah,
he Travis?
Was through Travis, but he was at the games, and then he and I hit it off. I think he's from my old hood. I think he's from where I grew up. We're both Rhode
Island. Wow. Dale, we might not be able to do this show.
Fuck, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what's going on.
Hey, can you run a speed test real quick and see if shit's weird?
How do I do that?
You just open up a new tab and just type in speed test. Or Leonard, holy shit, we can see him now. We can. Going Rogue with Sevan, is that it, Bruce? Yeah. It's a pretty cool, she's killing it, actually. It's not pretty cool. She's just killing it. She's just yanking shitloads of clips from the show and putting them up. I like it. I'm flattered by it.
I can see my speed test.
Crazy. We can hear the cat better than you. We can't hear you, but we can hear your cat.
Oh, now it's up. It's pretty good now.
Okay.
12.
I just don't think we're going to be able to pull this off. It's too have you ever had this problem before at your house? An internet problem?
Went a wire and it's been a pain in the. It's been terrible. And we did Google Fiber and everything. And it's all enough. You're gone. Fuck.
I am sorry. All right. Do you I don't know. I guess we could. I want to reschedule, but what I don't know. We got to fix this problem. Should I send you out a cord? Do you want to send me your address? How far is the router from where you can sit? How many feet long Ethernet cable do you need?
Dude, I was upstairs right next to it, and it was shit.
Okay, so that means
I see you clear now.
Yeah, it's just so choppy. It's just so in and out, and I feel bad. We're 13 minutes in.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, tell me.
Man.
Now you're good. Okay, tell me. So you've been watching the Facebook, people getting booted off of social media.
Yeah, and so I've got a colleague is just dying to sue them, and I'm all in. I'm like, as soon as we get the opportunity. But it looks like some state's attorney general, Louisiana, and one other one, they just got expedited discovery against Twitter in case down in Louisiana. It just came out. The order came out like yesterday, day before. And so expedited discovery has been ordered against some of the social media companies. Now we'll see if they take an appeal of that decision or whatever. But a judge down there, federal judge, has said, yeah, we're going to do this on an expedited basis. In the same way that Twitter asked for an expedited trial against Elon, expedited, move it forward and get that thing going. So it's all fascinating.
Okay, let me ask you some questions now. Damn, you look good now. Okay, so a year ago, I was like, fuck the people. Facebook is owned by someone. They can do whatever they want. If they only want black dudes on there, they can only have black dudes on there. If Twitter only wants fucking people who are highly medicated and lack any capability and just complete bitches, let it be that. Who cares? And then someone said this to me, and I'm going to say it so poorly, and you're going to have to unfuck it. You can do that until you get in bed with the federal government. Once you get in bed with the federal government, you have to follow the rules of the Constitution. And I go, I don't understand. I'm just a dumb podcast host. Actually, I didn't even have a podcast then. And they said, well, think of it this way. It's the same thing with why Southwest didn't want to force their pilots to take the vaccine, but they had to because they have contracts with the federal government. So so can you explain that to me? Somehow social media is in bed with the government, and so therefore they have to follow the rules of the government, which means you can't just kick people off because they're black or because they're Jewish or because they're against abortion.
I'll give it to you a better way. A better analogy is this.
Great.
So suppose that the federal government wanted to get info on you, but they don't have any reason to come after you. They got no basis. They couldn't get a warrant, no probable cause, and so instead, they got Haley one day in the parking lot of the grocery store, and they were like, "Hey, listen,
I feel my blood boiling."
And they said, I've been in some of these cases, and they said, "Hey, listen." They caught her doing something like she left the boys in the car while she went inside.
Okay.
To the grocery store real quick, and some cops were waiting for her when she came out, and they said, "Hey, listen, Haley, we're going to take these kids away unless you agree to go through Sevy's computer. Here's this thing we want you to install on his computer, and this will download everything, and then you give it back to us. So we're going to take your kids away." At that point, she's a government agent. And so she's subject to all the same rules that the government would be. And so the Constitution now applies. She's working, she might as well be a cop at that point.
Right.
I've had cases like that where sometimes it's voluntary, where someone goes to the government and they go, "I want to narc on my spouse." And the government goes, "Right on." And they think, "Okay, this is great because now we don't have to get a warrant." But that's not how it works. You're the government. You're subject to those rules. It's not, the whole point of the Constitution isn't, as long as the government finds a private actor to do what they want, they can get around the requirements of the Constitution. It's about agency, really, at that point. You're just an agent of the government. And so what I was amazed at, and this happened about, 6 months ago, I forget what it was, but the White House press secretary got up and said in front of the entire American public that the president of the United States and the administration was basically squeezing social media companies to punt people off, and
that was the redheaded lady, right?
Yeah. And I sat there, watched it, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. I was like, did they just admit that it's state action? And I thought the lawsuits are coming, but it's amazing how cowed people are. I mean, it was an open admission.
What's that word mean? Cowed?
Cowed. COWED.
What's that mean? How cowed people are?
People have
fat? Does that mean they're fat?
No, intimidated.
So what relationship does Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, these companies, have with the government that makes it so they can't just indiscriminately kick people off, that they have to follow the rules of the country?
Well, as soon as you're doing the government's bidding, if you're throttling people, if it comes out discovery that, hey, we kicked Sevy off because he said bad things about vaccines that we didn't like,
right?
And that's a clear First Amendment violation. If there's evidence,
but if they're a private company, they can do it, right? Like there's stores that say, hey, you can't come in unless you're vaccinated.
Yep. Completely private company. And it was amazing to me because for years and years,
but if it's not private, if the government asked the store to do it, we have a problem.
The term we use, the legal term that they use, the legal term of art, is what's called state action.
Okay.
If you have state action, then now you've got a constitutional issue. If there's state action, if there's no state action, and by the way, this is funny because I don't know if you remember when on the CrossFit website way back in the day, I was pretty, regular commenter on there way back in the day, and there were a bunch of people on there claiming that, oh, Greg, when he threw some people off and he got rid of some comments, he had been Lynn and the moderators had a pretty liberal policy about, hey, kind of, we're free speech advocates, so we'll let most things, they kind of let anything go on the site. But then there was this big blow up, and Greg removed some comments. He had Lynn remove some comments. People were like, oh, he's a Nazi. He's what happened to the First Amendment? And I happened to be on there. I was like, just what you're talking about. I was like, bro, there's no First Amendment here. It's his website. There's no state action.
Right.
So he can do what he wants on his website. He doesn't have to let you come on there. It's only, now I will say this, there's one other aspect to this that's worth at least considering. And that's culturally, if everybody's about not letting others, if every private company said, well, we're not, we can have only what we want on here and we're going to throttle speech, at some point you have to ask yourself as a country, do we really even have a First Amendment anymore if nobody if nobody abides it and everybody's fine with censorship, then we don't have a culture that even protects that value. You know what I mean? Like and we're getting there rapidly. I mean, the culture is swinging that way. Everybody's like, if you say something that offends me, you got comedians who won't do their acts anymore. We really have become a censorious kind of culture now, God forbid you say something that offends me. I don't want to hear it. Let's stop talking. It's amazing. It's amazing.
When the airline said, hey, you can't get on our flights without masks, obviously that wasn't true. And we could have proven it as a group if everyone just said, okay, we're not going to fly anymore. They would have quickly changed their tune.
Yep.
It's the same thing with social media, I think. I mean, so many people, like there's so many good people I know who keep telling me, hey, dude, don't worry about the censorship. Just learn how to play the game. And I don't know if that sits well with me.
No, it doesn't with me either.
I don't know.
That's not the answer.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think that so many people are like, hey, you just got to figure out the game. It's kind of like, but I do it. The example I like to use all the time is there's a good chance that this cell phone is when, as it's being made, some kids are being killed, right? There's some bad shit's happening to kids, and yet I still participate in it. It's it's weird.
Well, there's actually a great legal case that's kind of related to this, and it has to do with how far do the harms have to, like how much are you responsible for? How far does the chain of causation go?
Degrees of separation,
right?
From the
and so how much am I obligated to, live in a cave so that I don't, hurt anyone anywhere, by my consumption of a product or anything? I mean, at some point you could spend the rest of your life and never living in a Faraday cage and accomplish nothing, so that's not
Jains that do that in India. I hung out with them. They actually sit still in one spot and they wear masks so they don't breathe in bugs and kill bugs, and they don't walk around because they don't want to step on anything and hurt anything.
Yeah, I get that. I get
sounds horrible.
No, I get the right.
But I get it, but it sounds horrible. But I get it.
Well, it's like it's the kind of the same thing I have with vegans. If I recognize, like, ethically speaking, they're like, hey, I don't eat meat because it kills a sentient being and all that. And I'm like, okay, right. Roger, I enjoy the spirulina and say, I don't have anything against those people. I don't make fun of them, because ethically I'm down with it. But I'm like, listen, man, bacon, sorry, just but we all draw
same with pro-choice people. I understand you want to kill the baby so you can you're only 18 years old and you want to keep going to the club and doing ecstasy and sucking dudes' dicks. I totally get it. So you just kill the baby. I get it. Vegans, I get it.
Yeah. Right. And hey, it's a how where do you draw your moral lines?
Right.
After I started scuba diving, this will sound funny. I started scuba diving, and you know what I won't eat anymore? Calamari. Octopus.
Wow.
Yeah.
The little octopus.
Yeah, I won't eat them
because you were swimming around with them and you like them too much.
They're so intelligent. They're a highly evolved, intelligent species, and so I'm like, that's a sentient being. It's the same reason. This is a really interesting. You'll love this one. This is.
And you know what? Even how they serve that shit, it's deep fried. I would eat deep fried penis. I mean, it's like anything is good deep fried. It's like kind of a joke.
Yeah.
Like just deep fry something else and tell me it's calamari.
Right. Use shark and tell me that it's calamari. That'd be cool.
Right.
But not octopus. They're smart. They're intelligent beings. They really are. But there's where was I? I
love this internet connection.
Yeah, this is better, huh?
Yeah, easy things don't come cheap. Look, we had to just hang out for 12 minutes before we got you.
Sorry about that.
I would eat a deep fried penis. Yes, Will, if it means saving thousands of these smart if it would make Dale happy.
That's right. No, but after diving, I was like, your eyes are open. You're like, I had a buddy who told me the same thing. He worked in a slaughterhouse, and he was like, bro, don't eat bologna, don't have the hot dogs.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, really? I love hot dogs. He's like, no, whatever you do, don't do that.
I like this thing you brought up about degrees of separation for cause and effect, because I was actually thinking about it this morning in the shower. So if we have police, there is a mathematical there's a mathematical calculation. We have 900,000 police officers in the United States or something like that. And let's say they're all armed. There becomes a mathematical calculation where someone is going to accidentally get shot. Either the gun's going to go off when he sits down on it, when he's loading it, he's going to shoot the wrong person. Yeah, there's going to be an accident. Yeah, there's going to be an accident. It's the same thing with, you can't administer a vaccine to everyone on the planet. Let's say it's the safest vaccine in the world. A needle is going to break off in someone's arm. There is going to be a bad batch. Someone's going to die, even if just because of the sheer numbers we're dealing with. There's going to be a pallet of the vaccines is going to fall off a truck and kill someone. I guarantee you it's happened, right? Like, you name it. And people have killed themselves falling on the fork while they're eating fucking, their dinner. It happens. But there are things like this thing I was looking up just now. When you mix alcohol and guns, the second you start drinking alcohol, even if you're nowhere near a gun, the chances of you being shot skyrocket. Skyrocket. Yeah. Like, if I had a drink right now, just sitting next to you, percentage while I'm on the phone with you, there's not a gun, my gun's locked up in my house. But all of a sudden, the second I start drinking it, I could mathematically explain to you how 87,000% my chances of getting shot go up.
There's a whole bunch of things like that.
Yeah, it's a trip, right?
Yeah, like driving a motorcycle's. Greg used to talk about this. Driving a motorcycle is, it's got some inherent danger. I mean, it's not, like, if you go down, man, there's nothing between you and the pavement. We both
right.
And yet there's a bunch of things you can do that statistically reduce your risks. Like everything, it's really funny if you look at it. The course that you take, California has that motorcycle course, and when you take it, they show you that each of these things cuts your risk in half. So, like, if you wear a helmet, you've just decreased your risk by 50%. If you wear a full face helmet, you've taken another 50% of that. If you wear riding leathers, you wear boots, you wear gloves, don't drink, and all of a sudden, motorcycle riding goes, is like a fairly benign, endeavor. You can make yourself a lot safer, but man, add boost to it, and your risk is now about a millionfold of being eventually being an organ donor. That's how that works out.
I think you'll like this story. Greg texted Dave and I and said, I'm going to the Harley Davidson dealership in Monterey. Do you guys want to come with me? And Avi was at the time he was like 18 months old. And I said, oh, I can't go with you guys. I'm taking Avi to ballet class. Now at 18 months, ballet, soccer, football, karate, whatever you put your kid in, they all look the same. There's no distinction. It's the same dumb shit they do. The kids play with. It's so stupid. Yeah, it's cool, but it's stupid. And so so I say, oh, I can't. I'm going. So Dave calls me and goes, hey, dumb fuck. Greg's not asking us to go to the motorcycle shop to hang out with him. Like we're gonna go there and he's gonna get us a motorcycle. I'm like, hey, dude,
Dave had it figured out.
Yeah, I go, hey, dude, I'm doing shit with my family. I'm not fucking going.
Oh shit.
Fucking 2 hours later, Dave standing by a $55,000 fully loaded fucking most expensive Harley Davidson in the fucking place. He's like, yeah, I hope you dumb fuck that ballet class was worth $50,000. He's like, you could have fucking bought the bike, come home and sold it, and had to pay for your kid's ballet till he's fucking 25.
I think I remember that.
I never made that mistake again. And what made me think of that is, do you know what I did? I immediately went out and took the 2-day motorcycle class. So that I would have a motorcycle license, and anywhere I end up getting some motorcycles out of it.
Yeah, I remember that. I never did, but I wound up buying one. But
you paid for that giant one you had?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're a good dude. Those things were crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever put that big one down?
I never laid that one down.
No. I dropped 2 of my bikes. It sucked. I never dropped my Harley, but I had this big, huge Africa Twin. And I fell over on it. And you want to know what's worse? Right when it fell over, Dale, about a week before it fell over, Tyson Oldroyd said, hey, bring your motorcycle into the gym at HQ and we'll lay it down and I'll teach you how to stand it up. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Well, a week later, this thing fucking falls over in downtown Santa Cruz and I can't lift it up. And a dude in a Prius stops and gets out in his 3-piece suit.
No, it's a bummer. I had to help someone at HQ who dropped a big, heavy Harley at a stop sign. Just it, stopped, and all of a sudden, oh shit, and boom, over it went.
Fell over.
Yeah,
I think I know who it is.
yeah.
It's a weird thing when it falls over. It's
800 pounds. I mean, the big ones are 800 pounds, man.
It's a very surreal moment.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's like to get it up, you need to pick those things up. You need a big deadlift, man. That's a big deadlift helps. Goes a long way.
So I think I ended up going home and watching the video on it. You're supposed to back your ass up to it and basically do a squat. It's kind of a deadlift, but it's kind of, yeah. And that is the way I tried to lift it up like a deadlift, and I was a jackass. I got it up like 6 inches off the ground a few times.
I just deadlifted it, but I had enough of a deadlift to pull it off. I'm low enough too. I got down and was like, and just grunted it up. But yeah, I can see that backing it up is right. Yeah, walk back into it and stand it up. That makes sense.
Do you think the lawyers win the case against Facebook and Twitter and kicking people off, or no? It's just too big of a juggernaut.
I think the discovery is the biggest part of it. That somewhere. I mean, it seems to me that somewhere there's going to be evidence in emails or whatever. Look, it's the same thing that happened when we went up against the NSCA. When I filed that case, CrossFit filed that case. People were like, "That's the most ridiculous lawsuit." The complaint. I remember people saying, we made some serious claims about fraud and all this other stuff, that they had fabricated a study. And people were like, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You guys are nuts. This will go nowhere."
Yeah.
But when people get under oath and you start asking questions and you start poking around, particularly in emails, man, and everybody, and then you find out like people threw, "Oh, where's your phone? Do you text over about work matters on your cell phone?" And how many times it just like, "Well, my phone, I don't have it." Next thing you know, you got people lying on the road, destroying phones. We had William Kramer, how many of the senior executives at the NSCA destroyed their phones and computers. And I mean, that became spoliation of evidence. Now becomes like, it's a big deal, man.
Can you talk about that case? Have you been put under any gag order about that?
There were orders. I didn't, I filed the original one. I can talk. I can't. There's some things I can say. There's some things I can't say. If I can't say it, I'll let you know. But the things that are public record, a lot of it was public record. I mean, we tried to make sure that we litigated. The whole point of it was to be transparent. We wanted the open kimono.
So you guys heard that. That's what I'm always talking about on the show. Why? And can you tell us that? I'm going to go back, but before we go back, why did you guys want the case to be transparent?
Okay, this is a great story that I'll tell because Greg's talked about it. It would otherwise be, a discussion we had, but he had talked about it openly. I mean, he was very open. One of the first cases I did for CrossFit, it's a pretty standard thing if a case settles.
For those of you who don't know, Dale was the general counsel at CrossFit. What does that mean? The general counsel is the head lawyer, the head legal person. And those fingers go into everything, right? So someone tells us, "Hey, we have to take some music off some media." We ask Dale if that's true. Someone gets hurt doing Fran and L1. You ask Dale about it. Someone in a gym in fucking Morocco gets bit by a dog. And they call Dale. I mean, it's he's basically everywhere in the affiliates, in the training, in the media. It's just what can we call the company? Why are people in Mexico stealing the names of the gyms? I mean, it's the legal is so important in keeping the company together. Okay. And Dale was the head guy there. He had to oversee all of that.
And I was the kind of funny thing was I was maybe more so than being the GC was I was the first lawyer. And so Greg hates lawyers. He always had.
Right.
And I was the first lawyer that
openly hates them. Yes.
Yeah, openly hates them.
Yeah.
And so one of the first cases I did, for lawyers, it's a pretty standard. If you're settling a case, it's pretty standard to do non-disclosure agreements. Both sides, we're not going to talk about anything. We settle it. Nobody admits anything. And that's just so everybody saves face and we can all go on with our lives. And I did that because I just took it as like a standard, just kind of industry standard. And Greg blew a gasket. Oh, was he pissed. And even though we had won a bunch of money in the case, I'd gotten us a really good, crushed this guy who was buying up CrossFit domain names. So he would buy up like CrossFit Los Angeles. He's buying all these domain names, CrossFit San Francisco, just bought like several hundred of them and then was holding them hostage when we would license new affiliates. This guy would be like, "Hey, I'll give you, you're going to pay $600. So you're charging like $500 a domain name or whatever affiliates. And so I got involved in that. Anyway, we settled it. And I was, NDA, and Greg, it was one of the few times, Greg lost his shit with me. And he said, I'm not hiding anything. He said, what do I have to hide? I want to be able to talk about it. I want people to know, I didn't do anything wrong. And from that point on, it was like, I learned a really valuable lesson. He wanted to litigate, and it became clear that, CrossFit Legal's reason for existence was largely to protect the value proposition in affiliation. And that meant I couldn't represent the affiliates because they're licensees. We're actually at the opposite end of a license agreement. But on the other hand, they were the meat and potatoes of the business, and so, that's how we got CrossFit out there. So it was an interesting thing to be a part of, for sure. But that's background for the NSCA. When that case, came up, by then we'd had a well-established, by then I had, 8, 9 attorneys and paralegals, whatever, working for me, almost a dozen. And everybody knew that, hey, we're not the people hiding things. We're not doing anything wrong, man. We're making people fit. And so we don't have anything to hide. And so when somebody
that was always kind of the theme there. We're selling the truth.
Right.
We're selling the truth. That's all we're doing. We're selling the truth. Okay.
The fitness truth, man.
Yeah.
So
let's start with the truth. And then it ended. And when Greg finally got rid of the company, it kind of morphed to let's start with the truth.
Yeah. Well, and that's where he is now with the new thing, let's
broken
start
science.
There.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, I'm going with him in a couple of weeks, I think, up to Michigan.
To Michigan. Yeah. That's awesome.
To Hillsdale. He asked me to come up. So
wow. The wiki article on Hillsdale College is unbelievable.
Yeah. It's an amazing institution.
Quick side note, if you need any more evidence that the roots of racism, the KKK, separation, if you need any more evidence that it's being harbored, proliferated, curated, that the plantation owners aren't hiding in the Democratic Party, look at the fucking wiki article of Hillsdale College, the most conservative fucking college you've ever heard of. The first college in the United States to take black people, melanated skin, people with melanated skin. I don't even like to call them black people. People have just different biology. Fucking nuts. They refused to take affirmative action money from the United States because they were going to let in whoever the fuck they wanted.
Yeah, only merit. Refused to
merit.
Take,
it's so good. Go ahead.
Refused to take federal education dollars so they don't have to comply with affirmative action. But they were taking blacks and women in 1847 or something.
Yeah, when they first in the country.
They were taking women.
They were taking blacks and women.
Yeah, I know it's kind of funny. On equal footing. You graduate, you get a degree, you get an education. They just treated all people were equal to them. It's an amazing. Most people don't realize it's a peculiarly, that notion we get it from of equality. Whether it's before the law or just we're all equal, is a peculiarly Christian notion. It didn't exist in the ancient world. That notion is a peculiar. It's Gregory of Chrysoppus, I think, or something. I'd have to go look this up, but you can find it if you noodle around. But one of the first people to suggest that, even the Stoics, as well developed as the Greeks were, and Stoicism might be one of the greatest philosophies of the ancient world. Even Stoicism kind of accepted that slavery was always just kind of, we're always going to have it, Here's another, hey, I'll give you a hot take.
Hey, love is new too, right? Marriage for love. That's a
relatively more modern concept. That comes out of chivalry.
Isn't that a trip?
Yeah. That was
it makes sense. Once someone say that again.
That's the French. The French really give us notions of chivalry, and that all comes out of France, mostly filtered through the English. But the French, Middle Ages, knights, and all of that, and romance, the idea that men should woo women, and all of that comes out of France. We kind of owe the French for that.
Do you know? I've been experiencing something more intense than love.
Oh, this is interesting.
That there's not a name for. And what's funny is, since it transcends love, there's also, I understand the merits of not marrying for love, but marrying for survival. Like it's more important. It's way more important to me that my family survives than my family loves me. It transcends all that shit. It's a trip. I've just lately been really, really understanding it. It's I know, Dale, I've been to places in Africa, Dale. I've been to 3 continents where I filmed famine, 3 different continents.
Yeah.
And I've been to all the continents and filmed some horrible shit. And I was just thinking the other day, I could go back to those places with the resources I have and probably save lives. And I knowingly don't do that. And I've known that in the back of my mind for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I have to live with that.
Well,
But nothing's more, but it doesn't even matter because I don't even let it creep into my brain because I'm singularly focused on the survival of my 3 kids and my wife.
yeah. I mean, again, it comes back to what we were talking about before. Like, it's about moral responsibility. What are you actually, what's on your ledger? You know what? I mean, you have to, those are like deep questions. You know, what am I responsible for? What on the, you know, what do I actually have moral account for? Those are important questions, you know, big questions. Unfortunately, we don't ask those anymore. And school does nothing to help people grapple with the big questions. Everything's small now. Everything's,
and instead of just facing it to the fact that I have shortcomings or that we have shortcomings, like, hey, I'm not going over, we try to defend why we do it. I'm not trying to defend it at all. I'm not trying to justify using this phone at all. I'm not trying to justify that I'm pro-choice at all.
Oh, right.
It sucks that babies die. I'm not trying to, but we live in a society that just can't admit that they don't know or that they're wrong, but they're still going to go forward with it.
Well, yeah, it's rationalization.
It's gross. Is it just me or is Dale jacked? Yeah, Dale's jacked. Dale, what's your all-time best back squat?
Either 4 1/4 or 435.
And you at one point did you ever break the 3-minute in the Fran?
I got 306. Oh,
306. Yeah. Okay. Well, I thought one time I saw you break it, maybe at Del Mar in the garage there.
Maybe I was close. I mean, I worked really hard. That was like my, 11-second 100 or whatever it was. I was like, pick a target, that matters to you. That was one of my, like, I wanted a 3-minute Fran.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So, NSCA, that case, you were going to tell,
yeah, I'll tell you where I was going.
Can you tell us just how? I would love to know even the most minutia detail, how, since you started that case, how that popped up on your radar. And for those of you who don't know, the NSCA case was when someone accused a CrossFit gym in Ohio of injuring people, and it turned into a fucking nightmare for these liars.
Yeah, it was a study that they published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning, and I think it's the JSCR, Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research, or whatever it is, the flagship publication of the NSCA. And it was a falsified study, and we knew pretty quick. But I'll tell you that the NSCA battle went back to the early, that I have emails going back to that. Greg had been talking about that for quite a while. I mean, when I first came on, that was on the radar. And
what year are you thinking?
07, 08.
Okay.
Maybe early. Even further back. Yeah. And the interesting thing about it was that we just didn't have the resources. That was the reality of it. They were doing crazy stuff. They got a seminar canceled. Some of the folks at the NSCA got a seminar canceled over on a military base through the Air Force. We had a seminar all set up, like on a Friday. We got word that all of a sudden we're getting kicked off base. We can't hold it. The Air Force is reneged, and now we can't have a seminar. We got all these people who have flown into the country, and there they are. So the NSCA was behind that, through their channels. And ultimately we were able to, the nice thing about the suit was we were able to get all of that evidence in, even though we were past the statute of limitations for being able to sue over that. But we were able to get that course of conduct in front of the judge. And that was hugely helpful. But I was talking about it in the context of, even big companies. The NSCA was seen as the 800-pound gorilla in fitness, and they got crushed. And this, Facebook, Meta, Twitter, I think Twitter's in a hurt locker. I mean, I think Twitter, to be honest with you, I think Twitter is largely, I think it's always been, I think that's a government, I wouldn't be surprised if that was funded with DARPA money or something. It's an interesting thing. Yeah, it's a megaphone. That's all Twitter is. Twitter's like, the bullhorns, Twitter's just a bullhorn. It amplifies. And so when Elon Musk said, how many bots are there? I was like, oh, it's got to be. I've always imagined that it's largely fake. It's a propaganda. It's a psyop tool. It's meant to fool people into thinking that something's more important or louder than it really is. And so I've always
Wow.
believed that was, yeah, that's always looked Fugazi to me. That's all fake.
The Benghazi stuff?
No, I said it's Fugazi. That's an Italian word. It means
Yeah.
fake.
Sorry, you broke up. Dale, I have to do something really quick. Sorry. There's this all of a sudden your body has become a fast Dale has no neck.
No, it's a really, yeah.
Dale reminds me of the PE teacher, a PE teacher at school. He's built like a wrestler. CrossFit is awesome. Even the lawyers are yoked. Brick house. They're going nuts in here. Does Dale take human growth hormone?
No. Thank you. I guess that's a compliment.
Dale, what is DARPA?
DARPA is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, I believe, and it's a skunk works, DOD, CIA. They've had the SR-71 Blackbird. That was a DARPA project. Cold War era DARPA project was the SR-71. And wouldn't you know that Moderna, the company that got the vaccine, they got millions of dollars in DARPA money to research, viruses and vaccines. So, yeah, that's money that the Department of Defense hands out for different technologies and ideas that they have for the future. And frequently it's wasted, but sometimes things come out of it.
I went to dinner one time with Greg and the CEO of Twitter.
Oh, back when it was Dorsey?
Who was before Dorsey?
Oof. Yeah, I don't know.
Was it a guy named Bob? It's a famous name too. Fuck. CEOs of Twitter. Anyway, it wasn't Dorsey. It was the guy. I want to look real quick.
I was gonna say, now you're gonna make me check.
CEO of Twitter
CEOs.
Not this Parag guy.
No, not Parag.
It's not Jack Dorsey.
Noah Glass, Biz Stone, Evan Williams. Noah Glass.
Maybe the first guy. First CEO of, maybe it was Jack Dorsey. He didn't look like that. First CEO of Twitter.
Could have been the CFO. Could have been somebody else. Yeah.
No. Maybe it was Jack Dorsey.
Wouldn't surprise me if it was.
We went and heard one of his friends, this lady, speak in San Francisco, and then afterwards we had dinner. There wasn't a guy named Bob fucking founder. Let me see. Founder of Twitter. I wrote in pounder of Twitter. Not Evan Williams, Noah Glass. No, okay, it must have been Jack Dorsey. Fuck. Okay, and recently I noticed that so I think what the fuck is that guy's name? Joe Rogan has come to Dorsey's defense. Like, he basically was saying that, well, it's not Dorsey's fault that they were censoring all these people. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm struggling with that. Like, fuck you. Fuck both of you.
Well, said that he's come out and said publicly, he's kind of taken Rogan's side and said, hey, they shouldn't be censoring people. We ought to be. So he's come out and kind of been on the Elon side of things, like, yeah, the throttling conservatives is not the answer. That's not right. And so Joe's probably defending him on those grounds. But the idea
it's too little, too late, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you set that up. But like I said, I've always thought it was that the entire notion of Twitter, that it's not organic, it's curated, and that means that it's no different than the headlines at the Washington Post. What's being put out there in front of you isn't just a result of, oh, this is the most popular thing. You've got chicken and egg backwards. It's kind of, that's not how it works. They're making editorial choices about what's going to be out there.
It's curated. That's a great way to put it. Same with Instagram.
Yeah, of course. And that's how someone like you, I mean, I noticed it too. Like, I would post things and they would just disappear and die. And I'll tell you what it is it's an attempt to control narrative. That's all it is. It's story wars. It's making sure that the story that you want out there is what's front facing, and that's, it's no different than the New York Times, what they choose to put on the front page. It's all fake, all of it. So I don't really watch or read any of it. I mean, well, we've talked about this, and what's his face did the whole Gell-Man or gel-man amnesia effect that Michael Crichton coined that phrase. He said, you're reading the paper, right? And you read something, a story pops up that you know something about. Like, say if it was arm wrestling or whatever, right? It was something you like, whatever it is, something you really know about. You read it and you're like, that's bullshit. Like you just, you completely, you're like, those people have no idea what they're talking about. That is horseshit. And then you flip the page and you read some foreign policy story and you're like, oh my God, Israel did that. How amazing. It's like you got amnesia. Reading that this is bullshit. And I got to tell you, it's really funny because I had this experience with Greg one time, a great experience. We were at Pipes Cafe there down in Solana Beach. We were having breakfast and we're meeting. And there was some big story that had come out. And I remember it was some piece in something that got a bunch of run. And it was about biking. And it might have had to do with the drug use in biking or something like or whatever, And so Greg had asked me, had I seen the story? And I was like, yeah, I read it, and I don't really know anything about that. Like Greg did, he's into bikes. He was. And I said, what did you think? And he's like, well, I only know about a couple things. He goes, but I can, that's bullshit. And I was like, really? And I thought it was just really well, because it was like this deep dive, long form kind of piece. And so I thought, oh, it's got to be amazing. And then Greg said to me, have you ever read anything about, like, have you ever read stories about helicopter flying that the media has done, about being a helicopter pilot? I'm like, haven't been that many of those. I go, but yeah, He goes, did they ever get it right? And I was like, no, not even close. He's like, why? And he goes, why do you think it's only your thing? And that was the moment the lights went on. I was like, oh shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, why is it only that subject they fuck up? It's only yours. And yet you assume the truth of everything else they write about everybody else,
What I've been tripping on, what I'm really tripping on, and it's been about a year now I'm tripping on it, is the fact that things are being presented as real and asking people to weigh in on them when they're not real. And I keep using the metaphor for, Dale, let's debate whether Bigfoot has hair or fur. And that's how I feel about gender. And people are weighing in on so there's people who've never thought about gender in their life before. They have no idea what gender is, and yet they're weighing in on it. And if you ask them if gender is real, they say yeah. And then you would say, okay, define real for me. Is this stapler real? And they say yeah, okay. And then I say, show me gender. You want to debate gender so they ask, what gender are you to someone, and someone answers but they don't even know. It's just, and then I talk about, that's why it's important we don't conflate sex and gender. Sex is real, penis, vagina, gender's imaginary.
Yeah.
And I would say 99% of the people I interact with can't understand why that's significant. And yet it is at the origin of all the confusion and debate. So I see the whole debate going on up here like it's real. Bigfoot has fur. No, Bigfoot has hair. And I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. You've all been duped by a liar's question. Does Bigfoot, what gender are you? It's like,
yeah. Hey, it's funny you say this.
What the fuck is going? I refused to use Jason Klepa's app the other day. He has this beautiful app. He sent it to me. He said, will you try it? I look at it. It says, what gender are you? I'm not any gender. I just closed the app. I'm not any gender. I have no gender. I don't do delusion.
Taking your junk out and taking a picture and sent it.
Yeah. Which Pokemon creature am I? I'm not.
Yeah.
It's fucking idiocy.
Yeah.
What?
It is. It goes back to what we talked about last time, right? We're back to the same notion, reification.
Yeah, right. Reification. Yeah, that was the word. Hey, even what ethnicity you are has a component of that.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of that. Sure.
Yeah, like you're not. You were playing in the delusion. Like Mexicans are the perfect example. 400 years ago, you didn't exist. You were raped by the Spaniards. Native Americans were raped by the Spaniards, and now we call you Mexicans just to kind of give you a spot. And we gave you a religion, Catholicism. Here you go. Be on your way. That's the truth, right?
Yeah. You should have your own show. You ever see that Drunk History? We should have Sevy's History. It's only like 47 seconds long.
So the NSCA case, I mean, when you see the case and you see the 16 injuries, you don't know right away it's a lie, right? You have to. Can you tell me like how? Did you ever, when Greg told you, hey, file the case, did you have any pushback or anything where you're like, no, Greg, we can't, this is legit, or
Oh,
like,
no,
how
no,
did
no.
that
We
go?
had been looking,
Okay.
we had been waiting. I mean, that, I'll be honest with you, when that happened, it was like, they gave us the excuse we needed. They really did. They gave us good cause that we otherwise we didn't didn't really have. And so that was, and we
Meaning
knew
you
right
wanted to sue them all along? You wanted to like get in a tussle with them because you wanted to depose them, or you wanted discovery, or what?
yes to both, for sure.
Okay.
And more, I mean, as a larger goal, I mean, I think Greg always, how Greg was about academic fitness. He had been dead set on proving they were all frauds for, I mean, how many times did he say it? Like openly in public, they're frauds. How many times did he challenge to say, anybody prove to me what academic fitness is actually like, like sports science or whatever you want to call it, exercise physiology or whatever, academic fitness, what he used to call it. He's like, he used to challenge people. And then when he met Tim Noakes, he said that Tim Noakes, after reading Waterlogged, he said that was the one example that he could point to. He had always, he publicly said that Tim Noakes and Waterlogged was the one example of, exercise physiology actually contributing something useful to actual exercise, to actually getting people fitter. He used to say that all the time.
Yeah. That's how he feels about all academic science now.
Yes.
It's just all a complete shit show, the replication crisis, all that shit.
Yeah. He's largely, I mean, it's correct. In fact, the litigation over the vaccine, Greg said, we talked about this. What I'm doing is actually a specific case of the larger, he's generalized, by going and putting together a science curriculum and trying to, kind of bring science back to what it is, the objective branch of human knowledge. I love that. I love that he's staked out that turf. But by doing that, what I'm dealing with, like if we didn't have an innumerate populace and largely illiterate and innumerate, you could never pull this off. I knew the whole vaccine thing was a fraud from the get-go, but that's because I can, I've got some familiarity and fluency with numbers. I did my background, my first 2 years of college was as an aerospace engineering student. Then I decided I wanted to chase skirt. And once I got my flight guarantee, I knew I was going to be a pilot. I knew I didn't have to build them to fly them. But I went through all of that. I was a post-maintenance function. I was a test pilot. So numbers don't scare me. I'm pretty fluent with them. But we largely have an innumerate populace now.
Yeah, and with that comes the inability to do risk assessment. You know what I think is a better way to say it than maybe enumerate is no one contextualizes or puts things in relativity. So when you hear Mexico City has 30 million, I don't think most people go, okay, that's the size of California. That's the same number of people as California. Or when they say you have a 1 in a million chance of the vaccine actually helping you, and you have a 2 in a million chance of it hurting you, they don't even know how to process that. They don't like, okay, they have no way to put it in context of something else that they know. Like actually you have a 1 in 500,000 chance of every time you get in the car of dying.
Right. Well, that's because, statistics are tough and there are two different concepts in statistics, and it's directly relevant to what you're talking about. There's absolute risk and there's relative risk.
Right.
And so you want to know both in order to make an informed decision about, like I was just, it's why so many people in the military have risen up against the vaccine mandates, is because I think especially pilots, because in their training is all about taking really serious risks, like things with, if something goes wrong, the risk of harm is huge. Like if you get it wrong in a plane, you can't pull over to the side of the road. Like you got a lot of problems. So the risk of harm is really high, but you can do a lot of things to mitigate, to keep, even though the risk of harm is high, you can keep the possibility of risk really low. And so, when you make your living making really fine distinctions about risk, when you see the vaccine, you're like, well, my risk of getting ill is like 1 in a billion, like, and the harm from it's, I'm healthy, I'm I'm probably going to be fine. And then it's an unknown product. Well, why would I want to take on an unknown risk for the known risk really isn't that serious to me, you know?
Right.
And so a lot of the, like over 300 of my clients in this lawsuit I've got down in Texas are pilots. Like the risk of harm is way high from vaccine.
I want to try to explain this to people super duper fast, and feel free to jump in and unfuck me. Almost everything presented to you people from pharmaceutical companies, almost everything, I'm talking like 99% of all the data they present to you is through relative risk. They don't present, right? They don't present the absolute. And I'm going to explain to you really quickly how that works. So if they do a study of 10 people, and oh man, they have two groups of people. They have 10 people over here and 10 people over here. They have the control group of 10 people, and then they have the group that's taking the medication of 10 people. And in the control group, of 2 people die, but in the side that that took the medication, only 1 person dies. They'll tell you have 100% better survival rate if you take the medication. Were you able to follow that? They'll tell you the exact same thing if there were 100 million people in the study. So now imagine there's 100 million people over here and 100 million people over here. And over here in the control group, 2 people die. And over here in the group that took the medication, only 1 person dies. They'll still tell you it had a 100% effective rate. And the public is buying that. It doesn't matter how many people are in the study. They're just taking the people who were affected by the medication. And at that point, these studies that are so big, especially these ones that went around the vaccine, those numbers are just outliers. Like, we don't know anything about the people. Did they have comorbidities? Did they not? How old were? I mean, it's a complete shit show, and you're being just totally manipulated. And they're not hiding this. Anyone can look this up.
Yeah.
But what I just said is too complicated for Don Lemon to explain to you on CNN. So no one's. Do you think, did that make sense, Dale? What I said?
Yes, you got. I mean, they're lying, and the pharmaceutical companies. There's nobody better at it than them. I mean, Marcia Angell was the head of the New England Journal of Medicine, first female head of the New England Journal of Medicine, and she was all the rage among New York Times and all that back in, I think it was 2008 or 6 or something. She published a novel after being the first female head of the New England Journal of Medicine, arguably the most prestigious medical journal in the country, maybe in the world. And she wrote a book called How Pharma Deceives Us, I think it's called. And you can't read that book and come to any other conclusion other than that pharma has captured the agencies that are supposed to regulate them. And that happened a long time ago. But in the same way that the USDA, is captured by big ag. The joke about ConAgra and all the, like, Archer Daniels Midland is that they harvest more in DC than they do in Nebraska. Like all those corn subsidies, the farm bill. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, 2005. Yeah, you can't help but read it. And then now, if you go type in her name, and now what you'll find is a bunch of articles, and Google will spit out a bunch of articles that say how Marcia Angell was wrong. Marcia Angell's not, she wasn't really right about pharma, Now pharma's all our friends. They're wonderful. They're all good, it's crazy.
I think Richard Smith was the editor for 30 years of the British Medical Journal, and he said more than half of the stuff in there is complete bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, that Richard Smith video is amazing. And it's just like a homemade YouTube video, him ranting for 15 minutes. It's brilliant. Yep.
So when you file the suit, can you tell me, you file the suit against them? Can you tell me about it and about how you sent the lawyers to depose the people who were injured? Can you tell that first little chapter?
It was even quicker than that. I mean, I'll just tell you, Russ Berger got on the phone and just called. We knew, that was the great thing. I think that people didn't really realize, and a lot of people didn't. I think the people who bought CrossFit didn't really understand about it. Is that every affiliate, like for the first 1,000 affiliates, every affiliate was somebody that we knew personally. Like I remember when I got, I applied to be an affiliate owner in December of 2007. And I think I got my approval in like March of 2008 or something like that. And I was the 350 something affiliate. I remember being somewhere in the middle 300s. And people didn't realize that, Greg and HQ staff had really personal relationships, especially with the early affiliates. The first 1,000, we all knew really well. And so as a result, when it was like, NSCA publishes this paper in preprint that says 16 people were injured in a study, and somebody sent it to us, and so we're like, it's in Ohio. I mean, we know, like, we could look and see who are our affiliates there. So we just get on the phone and we're like, call up Mitch Potter, and we're like, Mitch, what did 16 people? He's like, what? He goes, I was in that study. He's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was that kind of like instantly we knew. I mean, instantly we knew, before that ever. We didn't need discovery to know they were bullshitting. We needed discovery to prove it,
So they're not even slick at all.
No.
Just cavalier in their corruptness.
Yeah, in the same way that most, I've always said that the whole notion of evil genius is really a misnomer, because if you're really a genius, you don't need to use evil shit to make money or get what you want. You're smart, you can just do it. And so what most of people who are doing evil shit are usually lazy, and it's a character defect. It's nothing more than you've got a rotten character. You've got, and maybe that's caused by something in your life or whatever, but you've got character flaws, man. You've got deep problems,
And man, Russell Berger is an amazing. Are you in touch with Russell at all?
Recently I bumped into someone who he sent a message through an intermediary to me. So I'm going to reach out to him.
Yeah, I need to reach out to him too. He's such a special human being.
Yeah. And the guy who told me that said the same thing. He's somebody who said, hey, by the way, Russ Berger sends his regards. And I was like, what? How do you know Russ Berger? And I can't really say what the guy's relationship was with him, but when he told me, I kind of laughed, and I said, man, that guy's something else on it. And the guy, without prompting, was like, holy cow, that's one, that's one unique SOB, man. You should have him on.
Yeah, I do need to have him. He might be smaller than Chris Spieler, and I think
they're close. I think Russ
he was a special athlete too.
Russ was about 150, 155 pounds, and Spieler.
Oh, he was?
Yeah. He a 150. I mean, Russ could probably get down lower than that, but he was like walked around at about 150, and Spiel walked around at about 140. I think Russ was a little bigger than Spiel, but not much. And strong like Spiel too for his size. Russ Berger could back squat a shit ton. It's crazy.
I remember Garth Taylor. He's the first, I think, American to win the black belt Brazilian jiu-jitsu championships in Brazil. Big dude, over 300 pounds, and he used to teach. Did you ever roll with him at HQ, Dale?
Yeah,
you did. Okay, so when
Russ was like a purple belt.
Yeah, and Russ and Russ almost choked him out. I remember Garth telling me that. He goes, "Holy fuck!" I go, "What?" He goes, "That fucking little dude over there got on my fucking back."
Yeah. It's like trying to grapple with an otter, and he had endless energy. I mean, it was like trying to hold a ferret, you're like, he's all.
You guys can go look at some crazy shit he did. He did some crazy rowing shit with weight vests and some, he did some nice shit. Okay. So Russell called William Kramer and recorded the call or something, right?
I vaguely recall some of the. He did a bunch of that stuff. He approached him didn't they get media, and him and Green approached him at the conference. I remember and William Kramer claimed that they had accosted him, and they just tried to interview him, and he freaked out because he figured out who they were, and that was the last thing he wanted a piece of was those two.
Yeah, they were something else. Okay, so then CrossFit Inc. sent lawyers to depose the 16 people or the 11 people. How many people was it again? Was it 16? Do you remember?
I think originally they claimed that like 16 people had been injured in a study of I forget how many, and then of course we got declarations from all of them, and as many as we could, and I mean it was crazy. Some of them were like I wasn't injured. I told them I had to take the bar exam. They were like, one of them was a law student who was taking the bar exam. He's like, I wasn't injured. That's a lie, and we did all of that. And ultimately, we got the complaint together, drafted it. And then the real turning of the case was when we asked them, we started deposing a bunch of NSCA employees, and we're asking about, okay, did you consider CrossFit a rival? No, we weren't rivals. We're an academic, organization and all that. And the fact of the matter was, we were crushing them, in the marketplace in terms of people actually, availing themselves of CrossFit seminars or CrossFit education.
NSCA had never done a seminar outside of the United States, and CrossFit was fucking on basically every continent except Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had an affiliate in Antarctica.
Right. Okay. And so the turning point was, they said that they were an academic institution, but in discovery you found, hey, you found documentation that showed they saw us as a rival.
Yeah. And I mean, that was the big one, was we caught somebody lying under oath. And then what was amazing to me was the real big screw up was then the NSCA got pissed off enough because of what Berger, had been publishing, some of the stuff we had been publishing on our site, that they sued us. So the NSCA countersued us in California state court. So we had a federal action that was basically a trademark defamation case, a business defamation case, in federal district court in San Diego. And then they sued us in state court. And that runs afoul of, you can't countersue someone in state court when you've got a federal court action statutes called anti-SLAPP statutes, where you're basically trying to shut down a lawsuit by claiming that the person who's suing you is defaming you by their lawsuit. And anyway, it's a whole convoluted kind of legal thing. So they tried to sue us in state court, and we could have gotten the thing shut down. But what we did was we got discovery in the state suit. And in the state court discovery, the judge granted electronic discovery. And when we got the electronic discovery in state court, what we did was we ran that against what the NSCA had given us in federal court. And it showed they had been lying and hiding things and destroying evidence. And one of the same witnesses, when confronted with that, admitted under oath that he had lied, that he had perjured himself in the federal court case. And then basically it just came unraveled. The whole thing just. In
the federal case, you're like, okay, we're going to go search your panty drawer. And they said, we don't have a panty drawer. And in the state case, you said, we're going to search your panty drawer. And they're like, here it is. So now not only did you find more shit, but you show that the someone's lying.
Yes. Basically, yeah. Yep.
Wow. And that's why I started seeing all of these documents coming out of the court at that point that Greg would share with everyone, that basically the judge was saying he's never seen corruption like this. 30 years on the bench, he's never seen like iPads being destroyed, lying, million like a million emails, right? A lie about like a million emails. Yeah, nuts. And so the only I guess we can only speculate the reason why they made up injuries about CrossFit. That's like the worst thing you could say, right? That's what Greg would always say. The worst thing you could say. And that's not an attack. Yeah. About a gym, is that it hurts people. Yeah.
It's the worst possible thing. It's for a lawyer, I mean, each profession has its own, like, what's the worst thing you could say about your lawyer? He leaked my private conversations, he gave up the attorney-client privilege, or, I don't know, pick like, my priest, I heard him in the coffee shop telling people about my confession.
Right.
You'd be like, that's it. It's over. You're done.
Right.
And so for, the equivalent for a gym owner is, I went to this guy as a trainer and he's hurting people. I mean, it's like saying you went to a doctor and he operates on the wrong foot,
and he's not saying it about one gym. He's saying it about, I wonder how many gyms there were at that time. You think 10,000? Definitely all 7 continents, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. By that time it was at least $8,000, maybe close to 10. I don't know, somewhere in that range. Yeah, I mean, that was when we were booming.
And so maybe basically more. it's a direct attack on all of those. And how many people did we know? And I'm painting a dramatic story, but I think it's accurate. How many people did we know that were a husband and wife? The wife was pregnant with their second kid, and they basically both quit their jobs and went all in to do the right thing, to open a gym that could cure the world's most vexing problem.
Right. Yeah. How many people do we know like that?
Yeah. Shitloads. And so then they're basically lied about. And by the way, it's one of the things that, Greg used to always talk about to Dale and I, for sure, and tons of people, that CrossFit was a small business miracle.
Yes.
It's 15,000 small businesses pop up. These are people being employed all over the world doing something that they love and trying to make a living doing it.
Yeah.
And all the toilet paper that's sold, and cleaners and gyms. Yeah. And you really want to know where the miracle is, check out Bill Henniger's bank account. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Someone
I mean,
Noble tried to say the other day that they were the first brand to do what they're doing. I'm like, motherfucker, Bill dumped millions of dollars into fucking HQ on a fucking handshake.
Yeah.
Like, if I was Bill, I'd go over there and fucking grab that dude and slap him around a little bit.
I mean, they did. I don't know. The first company to do what they did. That's a weird. I'd be curious to hear what their claim is.
Dude, I know you don't watch The Scene anymore, but it's a fucking shit show. It is
I know enough to, and I hear
an
enough
avalanche.
to kind of just go, man.
Hey, the grass is always greener on the other side. You know what I mean? Like, you hated Trump, now you got Biden. Now what? You hated Reebok, now you got Noble. It's like it's always be careful what you throw away.
Hey,
Bill Henniger. Yeah, go ahead.
You'll love this one. My buddies, when I was a pilot and then became a lawyer, right? And so I'm in Quantico, Virginia.
A helicopter pilot.
Yeah, I flew attack helicopters. So I'm back now working as a prosecutor at Quantico, and that's where the president's squadron is, HMX-1. So the president's helicopter squadron that's Marine Helicopter Squadron 1, HMX-1, is located at Quantico at the airfield there. And so they fell into my jurisdiction. So I bumped into some of my boys, guys I'd gone to flight school with, and now they left their fleet squadron where they were flying, transport helicopters or whatever, and they're now flying in the president's helicopter squadron. So I run into some of my old boys, and one of them guys was a hardcore Republican. And I ran into him, and Obama was in office. And I remember he had been like, the world is ending when Clinton was president. And so I bumped into him, and Obama was in office. And I said, hey, I saw him at the club, and I had to give it to him hard. I was like, hey, I bet you never thought you'd see the day that you'd suck a dick to have Bill Clinton back, wouldn't you? He was like, fuck you, man. So to your point about be careful, the grass is always greener. He thought Bill Clinton was the end of, that draft dodging piece of shit. I'm like, yeah, he had a balanced budget and your country was booming. It was like,
Dan, why do you think people don't push back on the truth so hard? I'll give you an example. Just like the issues around absolute statistics and relative statistics, relative numbers, and the way pharma. Why do you think people want to believe that there's vaccine efficacy, that it's effective? Why won't they just listen for a second?
Hey, for the same reason that CrossFit was even successful. Greg used to say it. If the world wasn't grossly fucked up, if people knew what they needed to know about nutrition and exercise, we wouldn't have a business. And it's how many people want to believe that they're going to fix their health with a pill? How many people
what? Say that again. You broke up. Say that again. How many people what?
How many people want to believe that they're going to fix their health, their problems with a pill? How many, right. Rather than like, hey man, you're gonna have to fix your diet. You're gonna have to put in some work every day. I mean, we are a country that has been, because of the amazing progress that capitalism and free markets gave us, in 200 years, we went from being a country that was chopping down trees to build homes, to building skyscrapers and, dominating the world. We did that in less like in 100 years, in 1787, you had to chop down a tree and shoot a bear to keep it from killing your kids and all that. And, in 1887, now we're a world power, 100 years later. That's free markets. And because of that, we got soft, and nobody wants to hear that. Like my grandfather, grew up in the Depression. During the Depression, he used to take, they used to cook in the morning, whatever they had, big slab of bacon or whatever. And then when the bacon fat in the pan would congeal, and that's what my grandfather would get for sandwiches to take to work, was congealed lard sandwiches, basically. And, people like, that sounds insane to people now. And my grandfather shrugged his shoulders and would be like, pretty good, he thought that was good eating, because the alternative was to fucking starve. And now you got people who are like, oh, I just want to take a pill and the problem's solved, How many advertisements do you see for burn fat faster? Or, the farmers just all they've done is take advantage of the desire that we have to hack, to be more efficient, to do things more quickly. And in many ways, CrossFit's an old school kind of notion. It's the same thing. Greg He was like, hey man, you're gonna have to work hard. Remember? And you wouldn't want it any other way. Because as it turns out, that's also what develops the habits of character that, you know, that's where virtue is developed, is in that struggle, you know? In fact, you'll love this. Take this full circle. That's, you know what the motto is for Hillsdale College? It's a Latin phrase, but it's virtue delights in the struggle, or temptation. There's a bunch of different translations, but it's strength, you know, strength longs for the challenge, or virtue, you know, appreciates the temptation, or, you know, you don't get virtue unless you have its opposite. You don't, you know, if there is no dichotomy, virtue doesn't exist if there isn't bad. You know, you have to delight in the temptation that, you know, this is where virtue shows itself.
Yeah.
This is where strength of character shows itself, you know?
Well, yesterday, one of my son took his gray belt, you know, that goes like, in the kids, there's 3 gray belts. So he went for his 2nd gray belt yesterday. And, he said, and he was the youngest kid in the class to get it. And, we're driving there, and he's like, man, I am so nervous. And I go, that's awesome. And he goes, why is that awesome? I'm like, cause that's I've never heard you say that, or I haven't heard you say that since the last tennis tournament you went to. I go, what a great feeling. He goes, I don't understand. Why would it be good? I go, hey dude, when your mom was pregnant with you, and it was uncomfortable, I remember hearing her tell herself, I'm going to enjoy this. This is my experience. And he got it. He goes, she just said that. And I was like, yeah. He goes, so this is my experience. I go, yeah. I go, enjoy this. And it's like you said, right? You enjoy those challenges.
Yeah. Virtue delights in the, you know, strength delights in the challenge.
Yeah. And it can be emotion. It can be uncomfortability.
Yeah.
Dale, when they overturned Roe versus Wade with a D?
Yeah.
When they overturned Roe v. Wade, it sounds smarter when I say it like that. I want to see if I understand this correctly. All they said before, the federal government said abortion had to be legal in all 50 states, and all they said with the overturn of it is that Roe v. Wade, the federal government had no business weighing in on whether it was legal. Which also makes it so that the federal government has no business weighing in on if it's illegal, which makes me realize how stupid these people are who are pro-choice, which is me. Unfortunately, I roll with those dumb fucks. We should actually be happy because the federal government no longer the same. It's like we have a master that was telling us abortion is legal, but by telling us that it's illegal, that master also has the power to say it's illegal. And basically that power of our master has been abolished.
Yeah.
So instead of celebrating that, we're upset.
Yeah.
And when I think of it like that, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with these pro-choice? And then of course, I know the big problem is because most of the pro-choice people think that the government made abortion illegal, but it's not even close to that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, the thing is,
like, do they just not know how to think? Is that what's going on? People don't know how to think, or
Sevi, if it goes back to what you said earlier. Remember when you said, you know, when you accept the initial premise. I had a law school professor, you know, does Bigfoot is big, it's hair or fur?
Yeah.
You know? And so I had a law professor, Mel Czar, I still remember this. He was I had him for Civil Procedure 1 and Civil Procedure 2, and he was a great, great teacher. And he used to say, he had a bunch of little phrases, stock phrases he had, but he used to talk about, he said, I don't care what the issue is. If you let me control the question, I'll win. I don't need anything else. All I want is to be able to control what the question is.
Yeah. Crazy.
And he was a smart dude, and he understood, you know? And so the people screaming about it, and by the way, it includes, like, I think I kind of grew up pro-choice. You know, I was raised by a single mom, and, you know, my sister's a social worker, and, I had that same sense, but, you know, you don't even need to be
just screams of indoctrination, by the way.
Yeah,
me too. Cool. And me too, by the way. My mom was a lawyer for the county.
Right. But you know, the funny thing is, when I went to law school, you don't need to be a constitutional scholar. Like, when they teach Roe v. Wade comes up, you know, late in con law 2, I think. You go through con law 1, then you get to con law 2. And like any course, like any university course, in law school, when you go through, you'll appreciate this. This is kind of funny, but like if you were studying naval history, like the history of, shipping or whatever, you would proceed the same way. You'd start with like earliest versions, historical big naval battles, the age of sail, the British Empire, you know what I mean? You'd go along at the technological advances, and you'd study all that, the advent of steel bottomed boats and blah, blah, blah. Right. And you go through, well, when you do the Constitution, when you take con law 1 in law school, you take con law 1 and con law 2, it's the same thing. And so you start with like the earliest decisions, Marbury versus Madison, and about judicial authority, and you work your way forward. You don't get to abortion until 1973. So, and the problem is, and I reread the, decision I kind of studied up for today to reread it and go back and read some other things. And it's a really hard sell. You don't really need to be a constitutional scholar, because the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments came right in the period 1865 to 1870. They're usually called the Reconstruction Amendments, and so they came about after the Civil War. And the 14th Amendment was basically, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, 1865, and then the 14th Amendment, in response, a lot of the southern states started passing these laws to basically make life miserable for free blacks. And so the 14th Amendment was passed in response to that and ratified. It basically said no state could deprive a citizen of the privileges and immunities of citizenship. And it's kind of a vague thing, but the clear
to protect the slaves from states that were still trying to fucking find ways to fuck them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That was the 14th Amendment. Okay. You fast forward 100 years, or more now, almost 105 years. You get to Roe v. Wade, and now the Supreme Court justices are saying that the right to abortion is found in the 14th Amendment substantive due process clause. I mean, that's a hard sell, like the 14th Amendment was passed to keep southern states from, and trying to analogize.
And Ginsburg knew it, right? She even said, hey, this isn't going to stick. And she was the hardcore lib, right?
Yeah. You didn't need to be a constitutional scholar to appreciate that basically the Supreme Court created Roe v. Wade out of whole cloth. That there had been anti-abortion laws. It was illegal.
Why did they do that? Was is that what politics is?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, the Supreme Court is almost always chosen. All of the Supreme Court justices come through the same pipeline. They all go to the same law schools, Yale, Harvard. Yale's had like big, huge majority of the Supreme Court justices have all come from Yale. They all clerk for a justice, a clerk for a federal judge. They do this same pipeline. They go to a big firm, and you don't have any diversity of thought whatsoever. You've just got this monolith. And what are they fundamentally? It's people who read the New York Times. They're liberals. They're upper middle class, white, proggy liberals from big cities who, think they know more about the world than they fundamentally do. And so what they believe it ought to be is really what it is. And that's what, they all believe that, women have to have the unfettered right to be able to, I don't want to overstate, but to be able to terminate a pregnancy because God forbid, that would get in the way of their career or that's really what's going on, their ability to go to law school or their ability to, you know what I mean? It's, people reveal a lot in those opinions
because of their choice to have unprotected sex.
Yeah, which is ultimately what it comes back to. Yeah.
So women do have a choice and men do have a choice, but it's not the choice. It's kind of like you have a choice, but there's some choices once you start down the avenue, you can't undo them. So like I throw a rock in mid-flight, I decide I don't want to throw it. I've lost that choice. It's going to hit it hits my neighbor and kills him. I'm going to jail. I can't be like, I can't take it back. Same thing if you mix a penis and a vagina and the penis ejaculates, some people think you should be able to take that back mid-flight.
Right. It's, fundamentally
by killing babies. Isn't the Constitution supposed to protect? Aren't there three things it's supposed to protect? Life, liberty, and something else.
Pursuit of happiness. What's interesting is
so why doesn't it protect a fertilized? Why doesn't it protect a fertilized egg, which I think by definition is an embryo? Why can't it protect that? Why didn't they just argue? Which amendment is it that it's supposed to protect life? Why didn't they just argue that it's not life, and so the Constitution can't protect it, and therefore abortion's legal?
Because there's been the common law going back for probably 1,000 years. If you killed a pregnant woman, you'd be in a heap big trouble. There'd always been
more so than if you killed just a non-pregnant woman.
It wasn't considered. It was considered the killing of two, not just one.
So you could be charged. Wow.
Yeah, particularly heinous crime. There were more severe penalties for, if it turned out you pushed a woman down and she fell and the baby died. Yeah, you'd be in big trouble.
You could be charged.
So the law had always recognized that reality. What's that?
You could be charged for murder.
I don't think you could, but there was some other, but much more severe crime because they didn't have murder the way we know murder and those kind of statutes.
What if right now today I was drinking and driving and I hit a woman in a crosswalk who was 6 months pregnant, 2 months pregnant? Does more bad, and I kill both of them. Does more bad shit happen to me than if I just killed the woman?
Yeah. The law has always recognized that a pregnant woman's on a different, it makes sense. Look, the ancient world,
totally makes sense. It totally makes sense.
The ancient world recognized that, like, you and I are pretty much dispensable, man. But a woman, that's, a woman can bring a baby into the world. You and I just, we can, we're fungible, We're like two different $10 bills. It's a $10 bill. It's a $10 bill. It doesn't matter, But you need a woman to actually take a child to full term and bring a new life into the world. So that's a more valuable asset. And that was always, just as a matter of human survival, people had always recognized the importance of, like, hey, man, In fact, the entire Jewish people are a matriarchal society rather than patriarchy is a recent innovation too. Well, it's had its ups and downs. It's come up and down, but
there was Roe v. Wade. What's this new one called that reversed it? Dobbs? Yeah. Dobbs with a D?
I forget, it's something versus Dobbs, but that's the newest case.
So this is actually the more logical right decision to take the power out. Yeah, but why can't the power? Why isn't the Supreme Court protecting? Why hasn't it come to the Supreme Court to protect embryos? If we're supposed to have protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then let me also throw this in there. Could you then have a hysterectomy instead of killing the baby? You could say, hey, I'm just going to take out my uterus. And if there's a baby in there, fuck it. That's not my problem.
No, most of the states now have had criminal statutes that, that's what this was all about. The original Roe v. Wade decision, it was interesting because the woman was pregnant in 1970. And then by the time she'd already had the abortion, and so by the time they got up to the Supreme Court in 73, they're dealing with something that was a fait accompli. They're like, but there's a doctrine they have of problems that can recur and evade judicial review. And so they said, well, we're going to take this up and look at it. And it was largely an excuse. It followed a line of decisions, Eisenstadt v. Baird, Griswold versus Connecticut. There were a line of these decisions that kind of led up to this. We had a real activist court in the 60s. And ultimately, you get Roe v. Wade spits out at the end of it. But there had always, and it's funny because in rereading Roe, I forgot how much Justice Blackmun had gone over the history. He acknowledged that, abortion's been a criminal, it's been considered a criminal practice for like 100 years in the United States. Or prior to that. Yeah, prior to Roe v. Wade. So Roe v. Wade challenged a Texas law that criminalized a doctor providing abortion. So the doctor was the one facing, and that's a lot of what comes out of this and the hysteria that people kind of try to whip up over this is, oh my God, they're going to start locking up women who use the morning after pill or whatever. It's like, that's not very likely.
I did see that, I forget what it's called, but the day that the Dobbs case happened, they had the governor of South Dakota on, and they had something called, I forget what it's called, but it's basically like soon as they had a law in place that if this
Triggering statute. Yeah.
triggering, yes. And she also said that, hey, in that, and I noticed a lot of things I was seeing on social media, they were saying that women were going to die because they weren't going to allow abortion. But she immediately said, hey, we will not stop abortion if a woman's life is in danger.
Yeah, that's always been that's been I don't think there's ever been a law in the books that didn't acknowledge a call it a loophole, but some portion that always recognized that if the woman's life was in danger, it goes back to what I told you before. Like, if a child threatened a woman's life, there are abortifacients exist. There are natural abortifacients. There are plants that you can, going back to like, Ireland, and you can mix up, there are different, I forget what it is, but there are different plants that you can mix and take naturally that will likely induce an abortion. So it's not, this has been around, these problems aren't new. This has been something, people getting pregnant by mistake since the dawn of time,
Since the advent of the penis. So like, this is one you hear a lot about, ectopic pregnancy. This is the egg attaches inside the fallopian tube somewhere. Yeah. And women are saying that, and if this baby grows in here, it will kill the woman.
Yes.
But all the states, the 4 or 5 states that I researched right away said that no, we're not letting any women die.
Yeah. No one would ever, an ectopic pregnancy would always be as a matter of just routine medical, like you would terminate that because it's not going to take, the child's not going to live anyway because it's not in the uterus. It's not going to, it landed in the wrong spot. And so the ectopic pregnancies they shouldn't be impacted at all by any of this. None of this should make any difference to an ectopic pregnancy.
I hear a lot of people on the left saying that Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have stepped down that we could have had a Democrat appoint her replacement. Is that what do you have any thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that?
I'll tell you, I'll tell you how my thoughts on this.
It's a lifelong position, right? It's a lifelong position, right? Okay.
Right. So the Supreme Court is a life tenured, you're on the court and you're there until you croak or decide you want to step down. Here's the interesting thing about it. Part of what I think motivated them to overturn Roe v. Wade is that for the last 50 years, every Supreme Court justice has had to go sit through these bullshit hearings where Republicans and Democrats both try and get promises from a justice about how they're going to vote on the next abortion case. And so I think the Supreme Court justices were like part of the reasoning, they'll never admit it, but I think part of the reason that they did this was the Supreme Court justices themselves were tired of these sham hearings and all this bullshit, and now it's off the table. And so now nobody has to ask a Supreme Court justice about how they're going to rule on Roe v. Wade anymore. That's over. I think part of the reason was selfish, that they were just like, I don't want to hear it anymore. And so now we can stop. So back to your Ruth Bader Ginsburg question, we can stop the nonsense of having presidents picking Supreme Court justices over and trying to manipulate when someone retires and who's the president. And so that like all that bullshit can go away because now Roe's gone and we can just all get back to just the process working normally. In many ways, Roe turned the entire judicial process. It used to be, if you look back at go back 100 years to the way Supreme Court confirmations went, they look nothing like they do today. Nothing like. It was always considered that it's an advice and consent of the Senate, and it was basically most of the times in 100 years ago, even 80 years ago, somebody would nominate a Supreme Court justice and it didn't get anything more than it was just a rubber stamp. The Senate used to be like, well, he's the president. That's his prerogative. He gets to pick Supreme Court justices. Right. None of the show trials, none of the Kavanaugh bullshit, none of that. It's gotten out of control. And that's because, both sides want control of the court, but particularly the left has always used it as a place to get things accomplished legally by getting a declaration from 5 of 9 Supreme Court justices that they couldn't get in legislation. So it's always they're doing exactly the opposite of what they say. So they're screaming about, we love democracy, and except when people don't vote the way they want them to, then they want the Supreme Court to tell people what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Because you might think like, hey, look, if it's as popular as you say it is, if abortion is as big a deal to women as you say it is, then you shouldn't have any problem at all amending the Constitution, for example, or or even getting laws passed in states. I mean, if it's as popular as you say, but of course the reality is, I'll tell you the other part of this and why abortion's been around that nobody really talks about is because it's been a fundraising issue for Republicans and Democrats. It's a huge fundraising issue. And so for decades, they've been able to, they're going to take away your rights and I'm going to fight for them. And we're only going to confirm justice. And that's been a huge, both Team Red and Team Blue have benefited immensely from being able to fundraise on the fears that come around abortion. And now that's gone too. Now it's back to the states. Now what are you going to do? But there have been so many malincentives to keep it in place that it's kind of surprising that they did. I was shocked, to be honest with that. I'm not even sure it's a good idea.
Shocked what? Shocked what?
Shocked that Roe v. Wade was overturned.
You're not sure if it's a good idea.
I'm not sure if I understand why the decision is, but I mean, I'd have to get into some deep, judicial philosophy about whether originalist or textualist and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but
you mean in regards to how the 14th Amendment was applied?
Yeah, whether substantive due process. I mean, Thomas is hey, we should have done this under privileges and immunities. Does it fall under the 9th Amendment? I mean, it really depends on what you view the Constitution as, and it really goes back to, do you view rights as something that exists out there in the world, like that I have all the rights I want, and when the Supreme Court announces it, did they just discover it or did they invent it? Like, so when the Supreme Court.
You mean when the Constitution, not the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
I mean, the Constitution invented it, right? I know they always like to say that this is our God-given right, but I think anyone who can think says that, well, there's no fucking such thing. You're just like the Constitution makes some things some presuppositions. And then from there, everything else grows.
Well, okay. So
right?
Here's
some things
example.
By presuppositions, I mean things that we're supposed to defend for the existence of this country to exist. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Let's take the big one we talked about. Are all people equal?
Yeah.
Are all people created equal?
No. We're not all created equal. Not at all. I do not have those traps. I do not have those traps that you have. What?
Kyle Maynard had no arms and legs.
Yes, correct. Yes.
And then went out and did better than all of us.
Yeah, right. Annie Thor's daughter. Annie Thor's daughter burns quicker than I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, all men are not created equal, but the assertion in the Declaration of Independence is that we're equal. We're all created equal, as we have equal moral dignity. That's the term I use.
Okay.
That by virtue of being human beings and being creatures of God, that we have equal moral worth, and therefore governments shouldn't do anything to treat any of us. There should be no distinctions between us. The problem was they were creating that in a time when slavery still existed.
Right.
And so kind of baked into the whole thing was like, well, fuck, how do we deal with that? That's why life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The original draft was not life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The original draft was life, liberty, and property. And I think that, in my opinion, Jefferson pulled that out because he was afraid that if they put the word property into the original Constitution, that it would have solidified the notion of slavery. It would have said at a time when people owned other people. So if they had put life, liberty, and property in there, and yet that was really what they wanted to protect, was property rights. It's always been at the center of Western Anglo legal tradition. But I think he pulled that out because, in my opinion, Jefferson was in love with a black woman. That's Sally Hemings.
Another fascinating presupposition to me, or an acceptance of reality that is not in reality, is ownership. And then on top of that, the idea of stealing. Like these, and then people will respond to me, like, I'll be like, hey, you don't really own anything. Oh, yeah. So how would you feel about your house not being yours? I'm not saying that, dude. Yeah, I'm just telling you, it's like, it's something we've agreed upon that's fucking made up. Do you want to have a view of reality or do you not? Like, I don't care. I would like to live with more people.
It's an
it's a construct. Yeah.
It's an incredibly useful one.
Very well, or we don't even have to take it that far. It's an experiment that I'm happy I'm participating in.
And I don't know. I think there's something more to it. I think there's a little more to it. Let me give you an example. Think about your kids. Did you have to have a discussion? Did you tell them at all about property when you gave them a binky, put it in their mouths?
No, we didn't use binkies. We don't believe in that shit.
Okay. So for most people, right? If they're gonna binky, whatever it is, right? You give a kid something and then they have it. Try and take it away from them and see what happens.
Yes, right.
Were they are they bourgeoisie? The kid's getting shit in his pants. He can't even speak. He didn't read Locke. I mean, he didn't have nobody inculcated him with property. You give a kid something and try and take it away from him. And by the way,
they think, and speaking of slavery and ownership, they think they own me. They think they own me. My kids.
Oh, the kids?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They think they own me. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
They do. They do.
So going to ownership. Okay. Yeah.
So I think there's more to it. If we were talking about existing in a state of nature, if I lived up in the woods, right, I need to, and I built myself a little cabin, and I went out hunted and I killed a deer, and I put the hide up, and then I'm like, hey, I got to freeze this meat and kind of keep it for the winter. If you rolled up, and I was just out there, right, and I'm out hunting, I come back and you're sitting in my little lean-to and you're eating my food and you're, sitting there and you're laying in my bed, and I'm like, yo, man, what are you doing? And you're like,
don't forget I'm with your girl too.
Yeah. And you're like, property is a bourgeois construct. And I'm like, dude, that meat is what's going to get me through this winter.
Yes.
I mean, so it's not, I don't think it's just a made up idea. That there's a very real necessity for some kind of distinction between hey man, the problem is that, nature just doesn't give its bounty to us. It doesn't just hand it over to us. You have to work. I mean, that's the nature of the thing. So I go out and hunt that deer.
You're suggesting that it's, I don't know if this is the right word, but it's the relationship between ownership and survival is not close, but it's inseparable.
Yes.
Without ownership, you don't survive.
Yes.
And so therefore there's the argument. Yeah. I mean, fuck you for coming on my show and fucking with my thoughts.
Sorry, man. Yeah. That thought experiment.
I mean, I see it. I totally see it. If you didn't own that sandwich, then this motherfucker over here is just going to come punch you in the face and take it and grab your car and your wife.
Right.
And then what?
Right. Yeah, it's an essential.
And so for people to survive, we have to protect some basic elements of ownership. On the other end, Dale, that is the source of all misery too. This attachment to ownership, right? Someone does take your sandwich and all of a sudden you're pissed.
Right.
And you get a sandwich and you're happy.
Yep. Yeah. Everything, man. Everything has baked within it its own problems. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no way around it.
Hey, do you have an opinion on are you a pro-choice or a pro-life person? Do you know what you are?
Yeah, I don't know that I have I'll say this. I don't trust my government everything government touches, it fucks up. So I don't want them regulating abortion any more than I want them. I don't call the government when I need my toilet fixed. You know what I mean? Is
it the same thing with that with the death penalty? We know there's some people that need to be fucking killed, but we can't put the power in the hands of the government because they kill the wrong people. I mean, they do.
Yes.
And so you raped and you went into an elementary school or you went into a daycare and shot all the nurses and babies, and now you have to be killed. But then we find out that it was actually after you're dead, the whole thing was a setup.
Right.
Yeah, it's a fucking. Man, civilization is complicated. It sucks that there's people who are. I like people that are cocksure, but it sucks that are people who are so cocksure about these things.
Yeah, they're the problem.
Yeah,
little humility would go a long way.
It is a really sensitive subject, the abortion thing.
Yeah, it is, and it's so much more complicated than people like. I don't, Justice Blackmun wrote the original opinion. I think he had been a counsel to the American Medical Association, And so when you read Roe v. Wade, it's got this whole trimester thing, and it's because he was around doctors. And so it's basically legislation written by the Supreme Court. I mean, anybody who's read it, that was always the criticism.
Are there pictures in there too? Do they show no. No, like
no.
in the womb?
But I mean, it reads like that. It really does. And the original,
like the baby at this point has a heartbeat and all 5 fingers, and therefore,
yep.
Like it's trying to rationalize when it's alive and when it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. They were using the traditional quickening in the common law. And they're like, but that doesn't really jive with what we know. And, it was all about this new medical science, is going to teach us. And it's like, yeah, that's a duck on the real issue. But I'll say this, most people I think would tell you that there is at least a certain reality. Like, for example, suppose you're a woman and you get pregnant and you don't know it. And there's a certain period of time you probably won't, right? 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I think most of us have had scares or had some kind of thing. And you wouldn't want to hold a woman liable, for example. It wouldn't make sense, for example, say your wife had got pregnant, she didn't know it. She's 7 weeks pregnant and she's out drinking or smoking weed or whatever, doing something that, doing cocaine or whatever that maybe would be ill-advised if you were pregnant, but she didn't know.
Right.
And the baby died as a result. You'd feel terrible about it, but you'd be like, your moral responsibility there feels kind of like, I don't know, you didn't know,
Right. You didn't know. Right.
How would you, so I think there's a certain sense in which you go, look, at the point at which you find out that you're pregnant, that, oops, this has happened. And, we didn't mean for it to happen. And now it happened. Your obligation, I think, is if you're going to do that, now is the time, not at week 38. And I think most people have a genuine sense of that like, hey, it didn't sneak up on you. You found out at some point, week 8, week 10, week 12. And if you're like, I can't do this right now for whatever reasons you want, then do it now. Now, Catholics will kill me over saying something like that. And again, I'll say that my view of it is, I don't approve of it. I don't approve of abortion as a method of contraception, but on the other hand, I'm not naive about situations that people find themselves in their lives. And
how about this? So the left says some really, really dumb shit. They say stuff like, well, what if you get raped, or what if it's incest? And then you look at the numbers and it's insignificant.
Yes.
But listen to this dumb shit the right says. How dumb is the right? I just looked this up in the BMJ real quick. 9 out of 10 abort on the same end. The right's like, well, you can't be killing babies at 30 weeks. And I've said that shit too, right? Oh, well, what about these motherfuckers who are trying to kill babies 7 days after they're out of the womb? Because there is legislation like that in San Francisco. I don't know if you've seen, or out of California. It's fucking scary. But listen, the BMJ right here, just a quick Google search, we'll assume it's true, says this, 9 out of 10 abortions are done before 12 weeks. In many high-income countries. So at that point, it makes me feel like, hey, dude, just let people do what they want. Right. I'm not for abortion. I'm not going to do it.
I'm not going to have one.
Yeah, I'm going to, or if my wife got pregnant, I would ask her not to do it. But to just let people do what they want to do. But then, so where does the argument come? Well, so then you're just going to let people kill babies. But then I turn to this and it's like, but 9 out of 10 are before 12 weeks.
Right. Hey, I go back to what I said. This issue, the people beating the drums about this issue this has been an issue that they used to fundraise against, and they make millions and millions of dollars for their reelection campaigns and get everybody whipped up. It's the same thing with guns. It's the same thing. It's one of those, hey, look, I don't like guns or whatever. You don't like them. Okay, fine. Don't get one. Like, then the issue's over for you. You don't like abortions, don't get one.
Right.
We've become obsessed with the notion that we all have to control what somebody else is doing. And that's the real bill of goods is like, I always ask people, do you think that you know the difference between right and wrong in most situations that come up in your life? Like if something presents itself in your day-to-day life, are you like, oh, fuck, I don't know, I'll just flip a coin and hope, and then pick one choice or the other? Or do you think you're enough of a morally developed person that you know the difference between right and wrong? And everybody will always tell you, no, I know the difference between right and wrong. Be like, okay, then like, you're not confused about any of this, right? No. Okay. Well, then why the fuck are you worried about what anybody else is doing? Like, just take care of yourself, right? Like, everybody knows everything. Everybody's got it all figured out. All right, great. Then, why don't you just worry about you? Just take care of you. You got enough problems right there. Trust me. It's a hard enough job. Just controlling your own urges, taking care of your own shit, paying your rent. And we live in this world that's been created for us, this stereopticon, which is just all about convincing us that we need to take an interest in other people's shit and business and tell them how they should live their lives. And the other part that I hate about it is that there's no room for forgiveness either.
No.
I can have this notion, like, I can go, and particularly on the left, that they've got a religion that has no forgiveness in it. And so the secular humanism is just about demonizing the other, and there's no chance for redemption. Like, suppose I disagree with abortion. Okay, I don't think you should do it. And suppose one of my daughters had one. She got in a bad circumstance, and maybe she didn't want to confide in her old man because she didn't know how I felt about it, and so she had an abortion. And then I found out, somehow it slipped out or whatever. Like, it would hurt me more that she didn't think she could share that with me and didn't think that I would be there for her, regardless of my own stance on it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That I would support you. I told my daughters, there's no crime you could commit that you're still my daughter.
This dude popped for steroids, and he came on the show, and I was telling him how bad I felt for him, and I was telling him that I bet you your parents feel really bad because I feel bad when my kids do something and they didn't come to me first, like I let them down. And so many people in the comments were like, how could you feel bad for him? And it's like, it's so trippy to me, because I want to be like, man, I want to say something so crazy to those people. Like, how could you not feel bad? I feel bad for anyone. I feel bad for a drunk driver who kills someone.
Yeah, right.
Don't get me wrong. I feel bad for the person who got killed too, and their family. Sure. I feel bad for, maybe feel bad is not the right word, but
empathy. It's
empathy.
We live in a society that has tried to cleanse.
I want to turn the clock back for those people.
Yeah.
And I want to show up at the party and be like, and people are like, well, they made that fucking decision. Yeah. Dude, I could fucking go into anyone's day and fucking show you 1,000 times you are an autopilot, and then later on say you made that decision.
Right.
And if you were that's another thing people don't forget. If you were raised like Hitler, if you were Hitler, you would have done the same thing he did.
Of course.
Like, you have to fucking remember that.
Yeah, it's an empathy thing. We've really, our society and social media is part of it, is it's like, it's so much better to dunk on people than to say, like, geez, man, there, but for the grace of God go I, and just be cool, just be cool. And say, even if I disagree with what you did, even if I don't like it, even if it's something I disagree with morally, there's got to be something at the other end of that, which, in most Western theology and Christian theology was forgiveness. And by the way, in my own belief, that's as close as we get to the divine. As close as we get to the divine is forgiveness. It's as close as we get. Wow. In our best moments, is when we completely, and I mean, not with, I'm going to hold this against you years later. The forgiveness you have for your kid, when your kid does something fucked up and you see that kid wailing and killing himself over it, and you just want to cry, and you put your arms around him and you just beam love at that kid, and you're like, please, this is not the end. It's not, don't do anything stupid. You just have nothing but love for that kid. That's as close as we get to the divine.
Hey,
as close as we are to touching it.
Even when you're walking through a crosswalk and someone goes through it and they say sorry, and you're like, no problem, like they know they fucked up. Even at that moment, you feel the sparkles of that divinity.
Yes.
That lightness, that freedom, that and it's sort of like a communion with humanity. You have this new belief, like they said sorry, you said sorry. It wasn't like, fuck you.
Nope. No, you got the best instead of the worst. Hey, I try and do it when I'm driving, right? Guy cuts me off. And I'm like, ooh, I'm mad, but I back up, right? And then you can see the guy in the mirror look up at you, and you meet his eyes. And he cringes, right? And he gives you a couple fingers, and you're like, no problem.
Yeah,
I get it.
Totally.
I've had my head up my ass too. No harm, no foul. Everybody's good. I don't need to kill you. It's just all good.
We're just driving.
Yeah, we're just trying to get where we're going.
And the more you do that, you can reprogram yourself.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So that like nothing, it's all good.
Yep.
Hey, that shit spreads like a disease, a
Yeah, we
healthy
need more of it.
disease. Yeah.
Yeah, we need more of it. The other shit spreads like a disease too, and that's the problem. We have to counter it. It's so easy to just be like, fuck that motherfucker, you know?
Yeah. Dale, thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, thanks, man. It took a lot of time. Sorry about the tech.
Fuck, I can't believe we pulled it off.
Yeah. I was connected to my iPhone this whole time. I used my iPhone as a hotspot.
Oh. And last time you didn't?
No.
Oh.
Crazy. Weird.
Send me your bill for your data usage.
I got unlimited, bro. Given how I talk.
All right. I will be in touch. I think we have tons more to talk about.
Yeah, of course. And maybe, hey, I'll talk to you after when you get back from Michigan. I'll let you know how that goes.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
I'll let you know how that goes. I'm supposed to be there. He asked me to come. I'm like, all right, great.
Awesome.
And then I go right from there. I'm going to go back to Coeur d'Alene with him.
Oh, that's awesome, Dale. He's actually coming here, I think, next week to rehearse. He's gonna be doing the talk like rehearsing here, so I'll actually get to see him.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me if he hits me up to come out for that. I got to see. I'm going on vacation here shortly, but for a week.
Where are you going?
Gulf Coast.
Oh, Texas, Florida.
Southern Alabama, right along like the Redneck Riviera.
Orange. Is that really what it's called? Redneck Riviera?
Yeah, joking. Yeah, the Redneck Riviera. Gulf of Mexico, but down Alabama.
Awesome. All right, dude. Thank you. Always great hanging with you. Yep. Dale, you were awesome. Jeffrey Birchfield. I can't believe we pulled it off, Sevan. TWSS? What's that? Twas? I can't believe we pulled it off. I can't believe that I can't believe we pulled it off. Yeah. I'd eat a fried dick. Yeah, I don't think I said that. Okay, I said it. You're the man, Dale. Keep coming on. Listening to Dale makes me feel smarter. I know. Me too. Thanks for hanging with those rascals. You know what I did one time? I saw something about the wrenches. I just went over to YouTube, and anyone I recognized, I just made them a wrench. The thing is I don't really, I don't know actually for a fact, but I don't think the wrenches actually kick anyone off, but they keep people in check from just doing stupid shit. Like you can say stupid shit. Like you can tell me, you can write in here, Sevan eats fried dick, but I think I already explained it. You can't just come in here and just say I'm ugly. You have to like make a joke. Sevan, your nose is so big that when you sneeze, they feel it in 2 states over. Like it just has to be some. I think there was a guy in here, YOLO, who was just too much. And I think I haven't seen him in forever, so I'm assuming he got booted. And like, yeah, it was just like too much. It's like, have you ever had someone over to your house and they just like, you're trying to watch the fights or you're trying to watch TV or something, and they're just too high maintenance. They just won't stop talking. They're not comfortable in their own skin. So you just don't invite them over again. It's like, yeah, this is our living room. If you do too much of something, you got to go. You got to go. If you don't like murder, don't murder someone. I see what you're doing there. I see you. Someone called me last night who lost an Instagram account and said that they think that I might be able to get mine back. But nobody, like the last 10 people that I've reached out to come on my podcast, just randos through Instagram, none of them have responded to me. When before I used to get responses all the time. Oh, what the fuck is this? This says it's tomorrow at 11 a.m. I cannot do that at 11 a.m. tomorrow. I thought it was supposed to be 5:30 at night. Tomorrow we have a programming show. We'll be taking a look at the programming for the 2022 CrossFit Games with J.R. Howell and the Thumb, Taylor Self. That's weird that it says 11 a.m. on my calendar. I wonder, what's it say on YouTube? It can't possibly say that on YouTube, right? Let me see. Oh, we have Matt Torres coming on. That's cool. I think we've been scheduling so many games athletes. I don't see it. Videos? Uploads? Playlist? Home? Let me see. Go to the home. Must watch? Upcoming live streams. Yeah, it says 11 a.m. That can't be right. I cannot do that tomorrow 11. I think that's going to switch to 5:30 p.m. I will check right now when we get off and have that updated. That should say 5:30 p.m. with J.R. Howell and Taylor Self tomorrow. And it's the 2022 CrossFit Games events. It's going to be the first look at those events. So I'm pretty pumped, especially since we don't know what the events are, but we have a crystal ball. All right, guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I will talk to you soon. Yeah, Bruce, this is our house. Bye-bye.